Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to my review of What If. This time I'll be talking about episode 6, What If Killmonger Rescued Tony Stark. So let's just get right into this episode breakdown. So we start this episode with the Watcher literally front and center in the desert skyline. He's not transparent or like a silhouette this time or like just eyes. Like we can full on see him. He is just hanging out, waiting for the episode to unfold just like we are. So this episode starts at Iron Man 1, at the very beginning of Iron Man 1, where Tony is riding through the desert of Afghanistan, and then he gets bombed by his own missiles. And who is there to save him but Killmonger? So Killmonger immediately knows what's going on, picks up Tony, actually he throws a missile that landed like right next to Tony and just like throws it back into the sky. I kind of question like how he was able to do that. Like, I've never picked up a missile, so I guess I wouldn't know how heavy they are, but I would assume they're kind of heavy. But in any case, Killmonger saves Tony Stark, and Tony just is more grateful than I think a normal person would be. Like, yeah, he'd be like, oh my god, like, thank you. But Tony's like, oh my god, thank you. Like, let's go grab a drink. Like, he just had a very strange reaction, and I kind of feel like Tony this whole episode was acting a little strangely. Granted, this is a alternate universe Tony, or like maybe I just become unfamiliar with how Tony used to act, but I was not so much feeling Tony's behaviors and actions in this episode. So after returning from Afghanistan, Tony has a press conference where he immediately makes Killmonger like the chief of security officer. And so as Tony's getting ready to get off the stage, like Obadiah's like, all right, like Obadiah Stone is like, all right, let's go. Like, I'm sure you're like tired and from that near-death experience, like let's get out of here. And Killmonger's like, oh, I bet you would like that. But here's all the dirt I have on Obadiah Stone and why he was actually trying to kill Tony this whole time. So basically just snitches on him like right from the get-go. And Tony immediately fires this man who was working for him for quite some time, I believe. At least that's how the story was told in Iron Man 1, I want to say. So for some reason, no loyalty for Obadiah, but like all the loyalty for Killmonger. Granted, he did find out that there were plans to kill him, but I don't know. Once again, Tony's actions in this, I don't know if I entirely like. But yeah, he turns on him pretty quickly. And I will say that in terms of like Killmonger's overall plan for this episode, he pretty much like isolates Tony. So Tony is the only one that he can depend on. So it kind of makes sense like later down the line why he would be so willing to just like go with whatever Killmonger says. But at the very beginning, I'm like, ask a few more questions, Tony. Like, come on now. But luckily, Tony does have someone watching his back. So as Tony's off, like partying with Killmonger, celebrating his promotion from Chief Security Officer, like the fastest promotion from Chief Security Officer to like, I don't even remember, like COO or something like that. A role like pretty much below Tony as far as like in the company. Pepper is like, hey, Rhodey, let's talk about this Killmonger dude. Something's up with him. Everybody has a motive, and I can't really understand what his is, and that's concerning to me. So of course, Pepperoni talk it out, and they find nothing on him, which is just as suspicious as if they had found something on him. So, we at least believe at this point in the episode that Pepper is going to be trying to piece something together to save Tony from some inevitable demise. So Tony decides that he wants to keep his date with Killmonger going into the night. So he takes him down to his car garage, and I believe like one of the first few times that we see this in Iron Man 1, he's actually building the Iron Man suit. But in this alternate universe, he wasn't kidnapped by the 10 rings, so he didn't need to make the Iron Man suit to escape from the 10 rings. So he just has a bunch of like random gadgets, one of them being a sonic taser, which we will see later on in the episode in action. But other than that, just a bunch of cars and his robot arm friend thing that initially doesn't like Killmonger for a good reason, mind you. But Tony's like, hey, this guy's cool. So the robot arm's like, okay, I'm fine for now, and just like scoots out. So they get to talking about their relationships with their dads and how both of their dads were killed in violent through violent acts with weapons. With Tony's being killed by Bucky, aka the Winter Soldier, and Killmonger's being killed through, he says, gang violence, but I think it was really the battle between him and T'Challa's father, who's the king of Wakanda. And so, as they're talking about this, Killmonger just so happens to have made a thesis about these drones that can take weapons out of people's hands. Which, if we think about this, like, even if you take the weapons out of the person's hands, you're still killing somebody at the end. Or at least, like, that's the intention, right? So that way we don't have to sacrifice our own people. We can just send a drone to go kill the people that we want to kill. Which, I don't know. I might be misinterpreting that, but Tony, of course, coming out of Killmonger's mouth, he was all for it. So he's like, hey, well, you didn't have the resources back then, but you have me now. So let's build it tonight. Let's do it. So Tony pulls up Killmonger's drone design, and it looks very much so like a Gundam. And Tony even points this out. Like, he's like, oh, that's a very interesting model you got there. It looks kind of familiar. And Killmonger's like, what? I like anime. Which is kind of funny because it's like known that Michael B. Jordan is also very much so into anime. I think it's like one of like maybe 3 or 4 things that I kind of had like a small chuckle at in the episode. But yeah, after that they pretty much get right to building and are able to build it in like a couple days, or at least have a prototype in a couple of days, which in some ways I'm like, huh? But in other ways I'm like, I guess it's Tony Stark. And so it's programmed to mimic Killmonger's moves. So it's basically like a Killmonger bot. And it is named the Liberator, which does not do a whole lot of liberating, I'll tell you that. So the only issue they have with the prototype is that it's not holding the energy that it needs to continue operating. And so what does Killmonger do? Well, he just so happens to have a ring made out of vibranium. And he's like, you know what? Use this stuff. This will absorb energy. And we won't even need to have multiple energy sources. Like, this thing will just renew the energy by itself. And Tony is like, well, that would be a nice idea, but my dad used pretty much all the stuff that he could find. So it'd be pretty hard to do that if we wanted to mass produce. And Killmonger's like, wait, but I think we know some people that can find it. So he's referring to Ulysses Claw. So Tony kind of, well, I guess he doesn't run it by Pepper, more so like Tony, Pepper, and Killmonger have a meeting about it, where I guess Tony is literally just notifying Pepper about this because he doesn't really give her a choice in the matter. And so, yeah, they just go through with setting up a meeting to meet Ulysses Claw to get some vibranium. So at this point in the episode, we had some familiarity with Iron Man 1, but things didn't play out like too closely to the movie. This point forward, it's a lot of very familiar scenes just like dropping Killmonger into it, which I didn't necessarily like, but we'll get more into that as we continue to break down what happened. So to make this deal seem like it's kind of a neutral thing and not like a corporate thing, I guess, I don't understand the reasoning. They send in the military to make this deal with Ulysses Claw. And so, of course, Rhodey has to put himself in a dangerous position because of Killmonger and because of Tony's freaking, I guess ignorance would be the word, but not surprising that the deal goes south. All the lights go out and people are getting taken out left and right. And who is it at first, I was thinking it was going to be Killmonger. I'm like, well, Killmonger, do what Killmonger does. And turns out it was actually T'Challa, um, dressed in his Black Panther suit. And he was actually trying to take the vibranium shipment away from Ulysses Claw, saying, like, this belongs to Wakanda, so I will be repossessing it. And I was kind of surprised that he showed up. It wasn't necessarily out of nowhere. Like, yes, he did have a reason to, like, try and take vibranium back, because vibranium is, like, Wakanda's. Even though if it was an element, it would be technically, like, the whole world's. But I guess most of it is in Wakanda now. But the way they use him, okay, let me continue, because the way they use him, I don't like. So T'Challa's there. He's like, yeah, I'm here to repossess my vibranium. What you gonna do about it? And then Killmonger shows up with the sonic taser and just start tasing the heck out of both him and Rhodey, to the point that T'Challa kind of just, like, goes limp on the ground. And he had actually killed him very quickly. And I didn't process this at first, because I'm like, oh, T'Challa's knocked out. Like, damn it. That sucks. And then in the next scene, you see T'Challa being carried out in a casket. I'm like, huh? That actually killed him? So, yeah, they just brought in T'Challa to kill him, like, within maybe 5-7 minutes. Which, like, why? Well, I understand why he was there, but at the same time, I don't know. But anyway, before T'Challa, or after T'Challa is killed, Killmonger also quickly kills Rhodey. And Rhodey's like, like, why are you doing this? Like, you're a part of the military. And Killmonger's like, I would never wear the uniform of my oppressors, which he hadn't been wearing the uniform the whole time, but he was a part of the military. So I kind of don't get what he was. He's got some conflicting values, I guess. And so Rhodey tells him, like, if you want to change the system, you got to be a part of it. Which, once again, Killmonger was kind of a part of the military, so I don't know. But anyway, Killmonger's like, yeah, I'd rather destroy it. And then he kills Rhodey. So Killmonger is already very quickly becoming my favorite character in this episode. And he just wants to add on to the gravy points by going back to America, why would I say like that? Back to America to talk to Tony. He's like, hey, Tony, so mission kind of went sideways, but I did get the vibranium, and he does have a vibranium spear to show for it, because Killmonger does just so happen to spare Ulysses' claw, and I guess he gets a souvenir from him. So he walks in, and Tony's already watching the news, so he already knows what happened. And he's also found a bunch of documents with his signature on them that are incriminating, to make it seem like he was trying to do something bad with the Liberator models. And so Tony is like, you know what? Let's cut the BS. Let's just get to the fighting already. And Killmonger's like, okay, cool. What are you gonna do? Like, you're a rich boy. You never lifted a finger in your life. He's like, you're right. That's why I'm gonna have something else do it for me. So turns out Tony had melted down Killmonger's vibranium ring, and he got the prototype, like, up and running. So now Killmonger is effectively, like, fighting himself in robot form, because the Liberator is modeled after his fighting style. So Tony sends the Liberator after Killmonger, and for some reason he just hangs out and watches the fight, instead of, like, leaving and finding safety, because that's totally what you would do when you're completely powerless and somebody has a weapon and is threatening you. You just hang out and watch a fight unfold. So not surprisingly, Killmonger dispatches the robot with his vibranium spear, and then later uses that same spear to kill Tony. Although the way that it was done is a little bit confusing. Killmonger throws the spear at Tony, and it looks like it, like, goes right through Tony's shoulder, so he's pinned to the wall. And Killmonger pushes the spear, like, further and further in, and then Tony just dies. And I'm not sure if that was supposed to be like the spear wasn't straight through, and it was more like a like a diagonal situation. It was like getting closer to an organ or what, but it did not look like it would have been a death blow. But I don't know. We're just adding to the number of episodes where Tony dies at this point. So Tony died. So because Killmonger stabbed Tony with a Wakandan spear, he was easily able to convince General Ross that this was a Wakandan assassination mission and that they should go to war. And of course, Ross, he's like, rah, rah, let's do it. Let's go to war. And so Killmonger also just so happens to pitch the Liberator model to him, which Ross is like, cool, the military owns that now, and Pepper has no say in the matter for some reason. So yeah, now the military has full control over making these Liberator models, which they're able to mass produce and then send to Wakanda with Killmonger on a big like plane. And yeah, the mission just goes off without a hitch. And that is one of my biggest critiques of this episode. Is, do I believe Killmonger is smart? Absolutely. But do I believe that he should be able to accomplish all of this without a little bit of some kind of struggle, or like have some kind of difficulty, or maybe even have one of the steps of the plan fail? No. It's just boring to watch somebody like completely dismantle somebody else. Like it takes all the fun out of it, because you know exactly what's gonna happen. Even when it seems like just when it seems like Killmonger is about to hit a hurdle, it is immediately like blown out of the water and dismantled. And it just continues throughout this whole episode. So yeah, Killmonger heads to Wakanda and he meets up with Ulysses Claw, his good buddy, and he's like, hey, show me where the border to Wakanda is in Africa. So they drive into what looks like this kind of safari, and Ulysses parks the Jeep, and he's like, okay, the barrier's right here, but we don't want to get too close. So, of course, Killmonger gets out, gets really close to the barrier, and so Ulysses, like, whistles to him, kind of like a dog, and he's like, hey, boy, like, don't get too close to that, like, you don't want to be, like, Wakanda shish kebab or something like that. He kind of try to make some little joke. And, of course, Killmonger, or literally just any grown black man, would not have been receptive to being called boy. Kamar's like, okay, cool. I see what you're doing here. And pretty soon after that, it just kills him, which is a moment I was like, you know what? I feel okay with this Killmonger action. I feel like this is something that he would do, and I would be, you know, like, this is Killmonger. This is what Killmonger would do. I don't know. Not that anything else that he did in the episode, like, he wouldn't have done, but it just feels so calculated, like, way too calculated. And for him to do something irrational and emotional, although even that was still calculated, because he ended up using it as kind of like a favor for the Wakandans, it still felt like it added some kind of balance. Like, okay, Killmonger's not a calculator. He's a normal human being with emotions. But now we go straight back to robotic calculator Killmonger, because he brings Ulysses' body to the Wakanda and is like, here, I have a favor for you. I did this for Wakanda. I am the son of Prince Nobu, and I should be like next in line for the crown of Wakanda, pretty much, since T'Challa was pretty quickly taken care of. So, of course, the king of Wakanda is just like, oh yeah, cool, welcome back, nephew. And everybody else whose brain is slightly bigger than his, I guess, are like, no, it's just some random dude that walks in here claiming he's this, and then the king's like, no, he's telling the truth. Prince Nobu did have a son, but some things went down. Of course, he won't talk about that because it's his fault, but he's like, some things went down, and, you know, he's back now, and that's all that's important. Pretty soon after that, Killmonger's like, so we're going to war with the Americans. They're coming. They're bringing these drones called the Liberator, and I think I know how to take care of them. Which the Wakandans are suspicious of not for the right reasons, I want to say. Not the fact that he's like already has a plan to dispatch them and what is very confident that this would work, but just the fact that he wants to fight with them is the most concerning thing, which I'm like, I don't know. At this point, I'm like, I don't think most people in this episode are reasonable. So I'm just letting it go. Like, Killmonger's calculated this to the point where, I don't know, it's just going to go his way. So they are on the battlefront, and Killmonger's like, okay, what we need to do is we need to open a hole in the force field of Wakanda so that way the Liberators can come through, and then when we close it, there will be electrical interference that will stop the U.S. from being able to communicate with these Liberators, so they'll shut down. And it happens exactly the way that exactly the way that he plans. And what's funny is the King of Wakanda like, oh my god, like, this is great, and everybody's celebrating, and the King of Wakanda turns to Killmonger. He is like, well, thanks for your work. You'll always have a home in Wakanda. And Killmonger looks at him like, kind of wanted more than that, and turns them back off. That was probably the best part of the episode for me. It was funny. So he turns them back on, and everybody's like, what? He's like, oh, Tony must have made a freaking remote control so that way they could keep going if there was some kind of electrical interference. Like, damn, that untrusting Tony. So of course Shuri and the Queen are looking at him sideways again, like, right. But not enough to actually do anything about it. So they go to war, and it's I don't understand the direction for the war scene. Killmonger kind of just runs in like, Wakanda forever! Ah! Wakanda forever! Ah! And is constantly doing this charge that is so goofy and weird and feels almost un-Killmonger-ish to do. He does happen to save Okoye from one of the Liberators who was kind of pushing her to the brink of defeat, and the Queen happens to see this. So he's in like pretty much everybody's good graces after that, except for pretty much Shuri. So yeah, battle goes the way that Killmonger wants. He's able to beat everybody, and then we cut to a scene where Killmonger is hanging out on this cliff, looking at the Wakandan sunset, which very closely echoes the scene from Black Panther 1, but in that scene, he was actually like getting ready to die. So there was an interesting juxtaposition there. But yeah, he's just hanging out on this cliff, like looking at the Wakanda sunset. He's like, dang, this is really beautiful. Glad we get to have this. And the king, he approaches him. And he's like, you know what? I want to make you the next Black Panther, because doing a couple things is all you need to become the next Black Panther, apparently. No background checks, absolutely none. No credit checks, no nothing. You just need to do a couple favors, and you're the next Black Panther. And so that's what happens. So they go through with the Black Panther ceremony. Killmonger drinks the potion and goes to the spirit realm or the afterlife or whatever you want to call it. And he sees T'Challa, and T'Challa says to him, this isn't going to work out right. Power that's stolen is not as great as power that's earned. And Killmonger's like, shut up, you're dead. And he goes back to the land of the living. So then we cut to a scene in America where General Ross is like, damn it, those freaking Liberators didn't work. We got to do something else. And so he is just getting ready to doom us all, trying to conduct this war with Wakanda. So Pepper steps out, okay, I need to get away from this idiot for a minute. Let me go into Tony's office. And who is sitting in Tony's office but Miss Shuri herself? So Shuri's like, I think we both have a common enemy here. So let's try and do something to figure it out. I've already got a plan set up to take out Killmonger, who did become the Black Panther, and is hanging out with his Black Panther, black and gold Panther suit, which was the cooler of the two Panther suits, I have to admit. Pretty much kind of like king status without being king, but yeah, Shuri's like, I have a way to dismantle this. So she sits down with Pepper, they're getting ready to talk, and what does the episode do but end right when it's getting interesting, right when I'm like, okay, finally, Killmonger will not win any longer. He will have at least some kind of difficulty before getting to his ultimate goal. But no, we don't get to see that. It just ends on a cliffhanger, much like the cliff that he should have died on in this episode. No, I'm just kidding. But it was hard for me to be entertained by this episode. Like, overall, as far as like me interested to see where the plot is going next, like, oh my god, like I don't know what direction this is going. I couldn't possibly guess. I knew pretty much 10-15 minutes in that Killmonger was going to end up like getting whatever he wanted to get, accomplishing whatever goal he wanted to accomplish, and that's really, really boring. The execution, I don't think, was great as far as trying to present the audience with a scenario. Okay, we know what's going to happen here, but let's try to at least make the execution interesting so that way it's not boring to watch somebody just constantly win all the time. I think there have been few projects that I've seen where the antagonist or the protagonist successfully predicts what their enemy is going to do, and because of that, they're able to just constantly win. So they already put themselves in a hard position with this episode by trying to accomplish that, which they didn't, in my opinion. It was boring to watch because I'm just like, yeah, my phone agrees, but it was just boring to watch him constantly like know what everybody was gonna do and then counter that, and then I'm a counter for the counter. And even when he had to improvise, he was somehow able to make it something totally feasible that people would believe. I'm like, come on, this just it was frustrating. It was frustrating to watch. What else do I have here? This episode also sucks if you don't like Killmonger, which I feel like I like him less after watching this. I think he's one of the best Marvel villains that we've had thus far, just because he was a really relatable character. And a lot of things that he said were honestly not too far from the truth, or sometimes they were the truth. But in this episode, it's like, we know he's supposed to be the bad guy, and most people don't want to see the bad guy win. I'm one of them. And to see him win effortlessly was just not fun for me. Not very fun. And yeah, my last point was just not really hard fought. He did not have to do a whole lot to succeed with this plan. Which is sad because there's so many notifications and so many people in the MCU that he encountered that I feel like should have been able to figure him out, or at least like put some kind of barrier in place so that he could not be as successful as he was. But we did not get that, and because of that, I'm just like, it is what it is. Yeah, that's what I thought about this episode of What If. So we do have 9 episodes, so 3 more episodes to cover. And of those episodes, this is just me going off the top of my head because I have not rewatched them yet. But I can't say that I enjoyed any of them as much as I did the first episode, or I think even the second episode, which I've grown to appreciate more with time, which is unfortunate. I think a lot of the Marvel series, even including Hawkeye, which I will be talking about once I finish this series, or reviewing this series, they all have strong starts, but they struggle to give a strong finish. And the pacing, for a lot of them, I think Hawkeye is kind of excluded from this, but the pacing is usually all over the place. They don't really know how to like keep the audience interested, or how to slow down, not have so many battles, because of course it is a show, so you gotta manage your budget wisely, so you can't have like a blockbuster freaking explosions and fights and stuff like that for every episode. But they haven't managed to be able to make a slow episode where you are still being fed story bits, where you're still being fed character information, where you're still learning about the environment, while also still like keeping the audience intrigued. And hopefully that's something that they'll be able to fix this year with the Miss Marvel show, or Moon Knight, which I believe is going to be coming for Miss Marvel. A lot of high hopes for Moon Knight, which I'm kind of worried about as far as just like the general perception of that show. I personally, I'm just going with the clean slate, you know, like I think it could be good. I also think like, you know, things could happen. But I'll probably talk about this more once I get to the end of the series, as far as just like where I think this series could have gone. But as far as this episode is concerned, I don't think this was a what if that was worth making, especially if you're just going to make it not very interesting or like have some sort of struggle. Like that's what the people are here for, is drama, and I don't think this really gave a whole lot of drama. But what do you guys think down in the comments below? Do you think I am completely wrong and that you love this episode? It was your favorite episode of What If? Or do you guys agree that this left a lot wanting and there wasn't really a whole lot of effort needed to be made by Killmonger other than making a foolproof plan right from the beginning? Let me know. So if you enjoyed this, make sure to hit the like button so that way there are more of my videos recommended to your feed. And if you want me permanently in your feed, then you can subscribe and take control away from YouTube's algorithm. But yeah, that is it for me. So I hope you all had a nice evening, or I hope you'll have a nice evening, morning, or night. Whatever's, enjoy it. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.